The U.S. Air Force continues with plans to withdraw the B-1. Near Abilene City, west of Fort Worth, Texas, lays one of the biggest bases of the U.S. Air Force. Dyess Air Force Base is the home of the 7th Bomb Wing, one of the only 2 bomb wings equipped with B-1B Lancers. Stay tuned for more information. Hello guys, and welcome to our channel, Fighter Jets in Action. Please subscribe and like this video, and we love you for it. Not everyone knows that the B-1B can fly on only 2 engines if necessary, and can even stay in the air on 1 if most of the fuel is dumped. There are small, movable vanes made of composites along the nose with an anhedral droop of 30 degrees. These are the Structural Mode Control System, SMCS, foreplanes. They were fitted because the long B-1B fuselage tends to flex fore and aft in low-level flight. Minimum sweep is 15 degrees and maximum sweep is 67.5 degrees. The junction where the wing sweeps into the wing glove features a seal to ensure aerodynamic cleanliness. The sealing system was derived from that developed for the European swing-wing Panavia Tornado Strike Fighter Interceptor and features an inflatable bag covered with fingers. The wing has lift enhancement devices for relatively short takeoffs with a full load, including 7-segment full-span extensible leading-edge slats and 6-segment trailing-edge Fowler-type flaps. There are no ailerons, with 4 spoilers on the top of each wing used to provide roll control, and they can be used as speed brakes. The B-1B's Fuel and Center of Gravity Management Subsystem, FCGMS, shifts fuel from one tank to another to maintain trim when the aircraft changes the sweep of its wings. There is a mid-air refueling socket in the nose, just forward of the windshield. The position of the socket allows the bomber's flight crew to keep an eye on a tanker's refueling boom. The top of the nose is painted with a white fishbone pattern to help a tanker boom operator locate the bomber's refueling socket at night. There is an auxiliary power unit, APU, mounted between the engines in each pod, primarily to start the engines, though the APUs can also be used for ground power. The APUs allow a quick startup of the engines so the bomber can get off the runway in a hurry. There's a switch on the nose wheel gear that can start up the APUs and the engines if needed. A single APU can fire up all 4 engines. The engines have fixed inlets instead of the variable inlets of the B-1A, although the B-1B's fixed inlets cut the high altitude speed to Mach 1.25. They raised its low-level speed from the B-1A's Mach 0.85 to Mach 0.82. The B-1B's inlets are also designed to shield the engine fans from radar to improve stealth. The inlets feature a de-icing system. One of the interesting minor details of the B-1B is that the bone was originally delivered with turkey feathers shroud around the variable engine exhaust. The shroud was removed in the 1990s as a weight and maintenance reduction measure, leaving the variable exhaust actuators exposed. The B-1B holds almost 50 world records for speed, payload, range, and time of climb in its class. The National Aeronautic Association recognized the B-1B for completing one of the 10 most memorable record flights for 1994. The most recent records were made official in 2004. The early beginning. The heavy bombers seemed like they were headed for extinction in the 1960s, with development projects canceled like the B-70 in favor of the long-range strategic missiles. However, the U.S. Air Force still felt a need for the type, and in the 1970s and 1980s pushed its development for a new, heavy bomber. After due consideration of proposals from Boeing, General Dynamics, and North American Rockwell, which later became Rockwell International and is now a part of Boeing, USAF awarded the contract for the B-1 bomber to Rockwell on the 5th of June 1970, while General Electric was awarded a contract on the same day for the F-101 afterburning bypass turbojet engine that would power the aircraft. The Air Force wanted 240 production airframes, with the last of them to be delivered in 1979. The initial flight of the first B-1 prototype was on the 23rd of December 1974. However, by the time the first flight of the 4th prototype took place, the B-1 seemed already dead. The 1970s saw a push for disarmament, and production of the B-1 was canceled by President Jimmy Carter on the 30th of June, 1977. A resurgence of tensions with the Soviets and other factors led to the resurrection of the B-1 as the new B-1B, which was promoted as a cruise missile carrier, though it still retained its free-fall nuclear bombing capability. The second and fourth B-1A prototypes were to be used for B-1B development, with the fourth built up as the B-1B pre-production prototype. The second prototype was lost in a crash on the 29th of August 1984, killing the pilot, Rockwell Chief Test Pilot Doug Benefield, and badly injuring the rest of the crew. Despite the accident, the program went forward. The first production aircraft performed its first flight on the 18th of October 1984, with initial service delivery on the 29th of June 1985. 100 B-1B Lancers were produced, with the last one being delivered by the end of the decade, equipping 5 bomb wings. The Lancer initially proved very controversial in service. There were a number of losses from accidents, along with high-profile groundings due to such problems as fuel leaks. Even after the worst problems were worked out, the bomber's availability rate was low, ground crews admitting that the big, complicated machine was maintenance-intensive. As if to add to the USAF's embarrassment, the B-1B did not see combat service during the Gulf War in 1991. Instead, the B-52 performed all the heavy bomber strikes, despite the fact that the B-1B had, in principle, a conventional attack capability. In fact, the reason that the B-1B didn't go into action during the Gulf War was primarily because USAF reserved the aircraft for nuclear strike, where its superior ability to penetrate enemy airspace made it preferable to the B-52. The B-1B's conventional strike capability was rudimentary, and that mission was better performed by other platforms. Unfortunately, that policy led to more criticism by the U.S. Congress. As a consequence, USAF focused on improving the Lancer's conventional strike capability, beginning the Conventional Munitions Upgrade Program, CMUP, in 1993. CMUP has been implemented as a series of block upgrades, which lasted until 2003 and transformed the Beast into a more versatile and modernized weapon platform. The B-1B finally went into combat in December of 1998 as part of the 4-day series of attacks on Iraq designated Operation Desert Fox, performing 6 sorties and dropping iron bombs. It went back into action just a few months later in the spring of 1999 as part of the NATO air offensive against Serbia over the fighting in Kosovo, codenamed Operation Allied Force. The Lancer performed excellent service during Operation Enduring Freedom, the Afghanistan campaign in 2001 to 2002. During the first 6 months of Operation Enduring Freedom, 8 B-1Bs dropped nearly 40% of the total tonnage delivered by coalition air forces. This included nearly 3,900 JDAMs, or 67% of the total. The Lancer was heavily involved in Operation Iraq Freedom, the invasion of Iraq in the spring of 2003. Although B-1Bs only flew 2% of the sorties, they dropped 2,100 JDAMs, or half the total expended. As the conflict in Iraq stretched out, the Bone, B-1 as it's commonly known, became a highly preferred weapon. In effect, a strategic bomber operating in the tactical close support role. It could carry a heavy warload of guided munitions and fly over the area of interest for long periods of time, dispensing bombs on request for pinpoint strikes on targets. Given the large bomb load and the aircraft's endurance, which substantially reduced the need for in-flight refueling, it was surprisingly cost-effective as a tactical support weapon. Certainly the type has more than lived down its early disappointments as a conventional strike aircraft. The Bone is a big bird, but is actually quite maneuverable. The weapon bays are all internal, so we don't have any additional drag even when fully loaded. The jet enjoys flying fast and low, contrary to the pictures some people may have of the flight profile of a large bomber, told us one of the pilots of the Lancer. One problem that showed up in the Afghanistan and Iraq operations was that B-1 air crews had no way of directly conforming a target themselves before weapons release, requiring the crew to call in a fighter to check the target, a process that was inefficient and still prone to deadly errors. With the B-1B continuing in intensive combat, the Air Force set up a fast-track program to qualify the Lockheed Martin Sniper XR targeting pod on a B-1B, mounted on one of the forward fuselage pylons, with the pod going into service in late 2008. The downfall. While bombers like the B-52, B-1, and B-2 have proven to be highly valuable assets in the widespread small wars that followed the collapse of the Soviet Union, these conflicts have not required great fleets of such aircraft. In 2002, the Air Force decided to withdraw 33 of the 91 B-1Bs surviving in service. 8 of the 33 were used as static display pieces, with the other 24 sent to the Boneyard at Davis-Monthan AFB in Arizona. 10 of the 24 were put in storage, while the other 14 were cannibalized for spares. In addition, the fully operational B-1Bs were rapidly reducing in numbers and facing serious signs of fatigue. The reasons the B-1 fell into such low availability rates had to do with the abusive operation of the aircraft, coupled by a series of structural problems that overwhelmed maintainers, according to USAF B-1 program manager William Barnes. The B-1 has been used hard and not in the way intended, former Chief of Staff General David L. Goldfein explained in September 2019 that the B-1 was used in Afghanistan and Iraq as a high-speed close air support platform, flying for long periods at high altitudes with its swing wings swept forward until getting a call to descend to low level and support troops needing air support. However, the aircraft was designed as a strategic penetrator, flying low and fast with wings swept back. Flying with the wings extended for long periods while carrying heavy loads put years of heavy extra stress on the swing mechanism and attach points. To stop rapidly grinding down the B-1's remaining service life, the Air Force decided to take it out of the close air support mission. Throughout 2020, the Lancers have been limited to Bomber Task Force missions, conducting short-notice, short-duration deployments to Europe, the Pacific, and the Middle East. The number of B-1B bases was reduced from 5 to 2. These are Ellsworth AFB in South Dakota and Dyess Air Force Base in Texas. There were some observers who suspected that the drawdown in B-1B stocks was just a prelude to phasing the aircraft out completely. The fleet of the B-1B was once again cut down last year when Congress cleared the way for the Air Force to reduce the B-1B fleet from 62 aircraft to 45. Of these 17 retired aircraft, 13 have gone to AMARG, where 4, 85-0066, 85-0077, 85-0081, 86-0115 will be put in Type 2000 reclaimable storage. The other 4 were used for ground training and testing or as museum pieces. What the future holds. The B-21 is expected to be delivered in sufficient numbers by 2031 to permit the rest of the B-1s to retire well into the next decade. Since then, the B-1B has to stay a lethal and versatile multi-mission weapons system. For this reason, further upgrades were being planned. In 2014, the Air Force began an upgrade program run by Boeing on the B-1B fleet to install an integrated battle station, which includes replacement of 2 cockpit monochrome displays with 4 color displays featuring moving map capability and a new central integrated test system with a resident color display in the rear cockpit. The Secure Link 16 fully integrated data link FIDL. Replacement of the AN/APQ 164 radar with the Northrop Grumman Scalable Agile Beam Radar Global Strike SABR-GS. SABR-GS is a derivative of the AN/APG-83 SABR developed for the F-16 fighter, but is about 3 times bigger. Radar sustainability and capability upgrades will provide a more reliable system and may be upgraded in the future to include an ultra-high-resolution capability and automatic target recognition. Munitions upgrade, including a new multiple ejector rack MER for the 225 kilogram JDAM, allowing the B-1B to carry 48 JDAMs. It was previously limited to 15. There is also work towards carriage of the 112 kilogram, 250 pound, small diameter bomb, a lightweight GPS-guided glide bomb. The Bone will be able to carry up to 144 such munitions. The Air Force is also interested in a modernized defensive countermeasures system, replacement of the onboard diagnostics computer, and replacement of the inertial navigation system. Epilogue. The Rockwell B-1B Lancer has become a mainstay of intercontinental strategic combat operations for the past 2 decades, being worked hard in the skies over Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and Libya, as well as supporting the continuous bomber presence in the Pacific. It has developed into a very useful all-round conventional precision striker. The Air Force is now planning to replace the B-1 and the B-2 with the Northrop Grumman B-21 Raider Flying Wing Bomber, with the B-1 to be out of service no later than 2036. That's a long time, and obviously plans may change. Ironically, the B-52H is slated to stay in service until mid-century, since it's just the most cost-effective delivery platform, as long as it doesn't have to confront adversary air defenses. Since then, the Bone will be serving USAF in what it does best: fly low and fast. Dyess Air Force Base. Dyess AFB was established in 1942 as Abilene Army Air Base, AAB. The base is named after Lieutenant Colonel William Edwin Dyess, a native of Albany, Texas, who was captured by the Japanese on Bataan in April 1942. Dyess escaped in April 1943 and fought with guerrilla forces on Mindanao until evacuated by submarine in July 1943. During retraining in the United States, his P-38 Lightning caught fire in flight on the 23rd of December 1943 near Burbank, California. He refused to bail out over a populated area and died in the crash of his P-38 in a vacant lot. Dyess AFB is home to the 7th Bomb Wing, which consists of 2 squadrons, the 9th and 28th Bomb Squadrons, which fly the B-1B. In addition, the 28th Bomb Squadron is the Air Force schoolhouse for all B-1B aircrew members. 7th BW. The 7 BW is one of only 2 B-1B strategic bomb wings in the United States Air Force, the other being the 28th Bomb Wing at Ellsworth Air Force Base, South Dakota. Its origins date to the 1918 establishment of the 1st Army Observation Group, later 7th Bombardment Group, one of the 15 original combat air groups formed by the United States Army before World War II. In 1997, the wing assumed responsibility for all B-1B initial qualification and instructor upgrade training for Air Combat Command. On the 1st of April 1997, the wing became again the 7th Bomb Wing, and the C-130 airlift mission transferred to Air Mobility Command, AMC. Since 2000, the 7th Bomb Wing has provided bombing, training, and combat support to combatant commanders. 9th BS. Formed in June 1917, the 9th is one of the oldest squadrons in the Air Force. During World War I, the squadron was the first American night reconnaissance squadron to be organized. It was equipped with the Rockwell B-1B Lancer since October 1993. It assumed responsibility for all B-1B initial qualification and instructor upgrade training for Air Combat Command. Since 2000, it has provided bombing, airlift support, training, and combat support to combatant commanders. 28th BS. The 28th is one of the oldest and most decorated units in the United States Air Force, being organized as the 28th Aero Squadron on the 22nd of June 1917 at Camp Kelly, Texas. It carried out B-29 bombardment missions over North Korea during the Korean War. During the Cold War, it served as a Boeing B-47 Stratojet and Boeing B-52 Stratofortress Squadron as part of Strategic Air Command. The 28th flies the Rockwell B-1B Lancer since 1993. It's the largest bomb squadron in the Air Force. The squadron's mission is to provide all B-1B initial qualification, requalification, and instructor upgrade training for Global Strike Command. Well, that's it, guys, for today. Hope you like this video, and subscribe to our channel and hit the bell for the most recent updates on fighter planes.